Wine and Crime contains graphic and explicit content which may not be suitable for some listeners. Listener discretion is advised.
Crime, the podcast where three friends chug wine, chat true crime, and unleash their worst Minnesotan accents.
And sneeze screams.
Intense scream sneezing.
Yep.
It feels better if you scream.
Yeah, you and Bill sneeze the same way. And then my dog gets scared every time because she can't hear shit. And then all of a sudden there's like
someone screaming.
Someone just screams.
Just one
sneezing.
scream peeling through the house.
Yeah. She just gets up and runs under the kitchen table every time.
And then just nothing else. It's an isolated scream.
Yeah, and then Bill gets irritated because then she like paces and click-clacks around, and I'm like, well, sneeze quieter.
No.
Like
Yeah.
she was sleeping. You woke her up.
Yeah, you startled her.
Yeah.
My mom sneezes, shake the damn house.
I love it so
They are epic.
Biggins.
Yeah.
Anyway, who are we? What's going on?
Oh, fuck. Okay, I'm Kenyon.
I'm Lucy.
I'm Amanda.
And we have a very special gals pick this week. We just wanted to treat ourselves to a bunch of gals picks in a row.
We really did.
Because why not? And so I pushed for this one because of the case that I found.
It's a Kenyon pick. This is a Kenyon pick.
I love it.
It's a Kenyon pick, and I basically was looking for a case for a different episode topic, which it will be apparent which one. And I found this and was like, nah, poetry crimes, baby. That's what we're doing.
I love that. That's honestly how I find some of my favorite cases is like, I stumbled upon this and I couldn't quite make it fit. Let's force another episode to make it happen.
Let's force a different topic.
Yeah. Well, also, April is National Poetry Month.
There you go.
Look
we planned
at us
this
go.
Perfectly.
Yeah, this was planned years in advance.
We are incredible business owners.
We have a content calendar.
When we stick to it, we never make changes.
All right. Well,
we are committed to our calendar.
Life doesn't ever get in the way.
When Zach asked me, like, okay, when are you recording this week? I just look at him now.
Yeah.
Like, why do you, it's gonna change. Why do you want to know dates and times that are
ridiculous.
Completely irrelevant?
Why are you asking stupid fucking questions?
My friend
Get out of my house.
My friend wanted, husband, get out. My friend wanted to know when we could have dinner this week, and I was like,
okay.
I don't know.
You'd be better off with breakfast.
Yeah.
I know we're not recording before noon.
Yes,
so.
I can make plans every day before, honestly, like 2 p.m.
Yeah.
Pretty safely.
I'm wide open.
It's not that I do, but I could.
No,
I have the option.
Okay, well, speaking of other things we try not to do in the mornings, let's
Speak for yourself.
get drinking. Amanda, what is our wine crime pairing for poetry crimes?
Well, our friends at Winc Wine Club also had the perfect pairing for this gal's pick because they have a beautiful rosé called The Lost Poet.
Oh, I love this one. I get this one a lot.
It's really, 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 really good. And if you want to order your own, you can head over to trywinc.com/gals because if it's your first order, you get $20 off with that promo code gals. It's like, it speaks for itself. It's the best. And they deliver wine to your door. So honestly, what could be better? And I know that I keep saying it, but it is like rosé season at Winc right now and just in general. And it's my favorite season. So we're drinking a lot of rosés. And if you don't like it, don't drink it.
Wow.
Okay.
All right.
That's my loud sneeze about that. This is a rosé, like a red blend. So as we've discussed previously, when you have a red or a white blend, you don't always have to list like legally the exact varietals that are used here. But typically if you're getting something this like pale, effervescent, kind of melon flavored, you're probably dealing with some sort of Pinot Noir blend, just looking at the color and some of the tasting notes. Don't quote me on that. It's possible it's not that same blend, but that's my guess. So this is a partnership with an anonymous author who goes by Atticus. This is a young anonymous writer whose love of wine inspired him to work directly with Winc to create Lost Poet. So there's a red and a rosé. You can't help but feel the blush of romance when you discover this poetically inspired rosé. Romance. As bright and flirtatious as a newfound crush, you'll fall in love with this wine's fresh citrus and floral notes, an intoxicating mirage that draws you back to the glass over and over again. Effervescent hints of melon and red berry only add to the appeal, as this bottling is so much more than surface level.
Oh, deeper meanings.
Yes. It's a joyful example of the heights California rosé can reach.
Oh.
Had to bring it back.
Hard turn. Yeah.
So this is, like it says, a California, like kind of coastal West Coast rosé. 13.0, just 13% ABV, easy drinking, but it packs a little bit of a punch. And she's a cracker, so you don't even need tools to get her open.
Love it.
Just put the lid between your thighs and twist.
Just don't put on lotion right before you try.
True. Yeah, do not do that. So are we ready to crack?
Let's do it.
So ready.
All right.
Oh, lovely.
Creative crack.
Effervescent.
I love effervescence.
I do love rosé, so this is excellent.
Rosé is the best.
Just in time for Easter.
For real.
All right. Well, cheers.
A cheers.
And now, Lucy, give us some background and maybe psych for poetry crimes.
Ooh. I've got some psych, baby. I've got it all.
Ooh,
yes.
This was a weird one to do some background on.
Yeah. She texted us earlier like, my notes are kind of short in a shock to no one.
Fair.
I beefed them up a tiny bit. I really did. So poetry, I would consider one of God's gifts. I love poetry. So it's impossible to define, but
it's like porn. You just know it when you see it.
You know it when you see it. But it's loosely defined as, quote, literature that evokes a concentrated imaginative awareness of experience or a specific emotional response through language chosen and arranged for its meaning, sound, and rhythm.
Okay.
So, yeah, if we were to define poetry, I think that was pretty spot on.
I can handle that.
Yeah, that's a pretty good definition.
Poetry is also old as fuck.
Yeah.
So it is present wherever religion is found and is also considered to possibly be the primal and primary form of languages themselves.
Interesting.
One theory is that poetry arose first in the form of magical spells to ensure a good harvest. Yes, please.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, that's cool.
I mean, we've always been hungry. Our shit always dates back to food.
So, like, language probably first emerged as, like, communicating face to face.
Right.
But then very soon thereafter, they think that it was like, okay, now we do some magic spells, which are technically poems. And then later,
now we're going to carve
prose.
this into a rock tablet.
Right.
Now we have the written word.
right.
Yeah. Or maybe like, you know, communication was done largely non-verbally, potentially at the beginning. And then like the act of speaking some sort of rhythmic, you know, kind of incantation.
Yeah, I mean, there
essentially
are like,
a poem.
There are also like proven holistic effects to like chanting, singing, like it's speaking and singing and being creative vocally is
powerful.
Very powerful.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like I said, wherever there is religion, there is poetry.
Cool.
So poetry dates back to prehistoric times with hunting poetry in Africa, which I would say is along the same lines as a spell to ensure a good harvest.
Right, it's like a prayer.
In the end, it's food. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Survival.
Mm-hmm. They also had court poetry in different African empires. Written poetry is seen on the walls of the pyramids, and the earliest surviving Western Asian epic poetry is called the Epic of Gilgamesh.
Ooh.
And that was written in Sumerian, and it dates back to around 2100 BCE.
Oh, that's fucking
Amazing.
cool.
Old as fuck.
I'm so scared
I'm
and
so-
excited by that.
I'm so cold.
I don't like feeling that small and inconsequential.
Yeah. When you think back to like entire civilizations
Uh-huh.
that existed and then are now dust.
I can't imagine a world without me.
It's like literally
And
nobody
I refuse
can.
to. I just won't.
That is
It's all been leading up to you, baby.
I know.
It's a foible of like human psychology. We literally cannot imagine the world without us. Also, like oceans. Hello.
I saw a meme yesterday that was like, think about like in the vastness of like human civilization and time and how long humans have like roamed the earth, and you get to live in the time of the weed pen.
Oh, that's pretty good. That's
Ooh,
pretty
that's
good. That's
true.
helpful. That's helpful. Yeah.
We really struck it. We got lucky here.
We did get a little bit lucky.
So then, since then, we've got Chinese folk songs and religious hymns, and then poetry developed out of the need to retell oral histories and epics like the Iliad and the Odyssey.
And it's easier to remember if it's rhythmic. Like if
Absolutely.
you're passing things down orally, then having it be rhythmic and rhyming, if rhyming, or some kind of, pentameter.
Yeah.
Well,
Helps.
it's also just more engaging. It's more interesting to listen to.
Mm-hmm.
And as we'll get to it also triggers different parts of our brains. If it's written in a poetic, like if it has like a poetic structure of some sort. Anyway, we'll get to it. So one would think that a topic like poetry is like kind of chill to like dig into, but it's super duper not.
Yeah. If I've learned anything from this podcast is that nothing is historically chill.
Anytime
Nothing.
there's a topic that we think is going to be light and fun, it's
Never.
not.
It's
yeah.
not.
It
never
takes
is.
a hard turn somewhere.
It's like board game crimes.
Oh
It's
my
like one of
God.
those horrific like shootings we've ever covered.
Yeah.
We've done some rough shit.
So buckle up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I will say this isn't like intense. It's just there's a shitload of technical shit to wade through, like hexameters and alliteration and spondies and postmodernism and stanzas and visual composition and poetry
no.
versus prose.
This sounds like school, and I am not about it.
Yeah.
Exactly. So honestly, I got really bored with all
Thank
of it.
you.
So
Thank you.
I'm
You're
just
an English major.
I mean, I don't want to. I want to get into the subjective shit. I don't
you
want to
wanna
talk about the
analyze.
technical. Yeah. So I'm just going to talk about the things that I find interesting, and you're going to deal with it.
I love it.
So the poem most commonly cited as the shortest ever written is by a person named Strickland Gilliland. Gilliland. Don't at me. And this poem is called Lines on the Antiquity of Microbiomes. It's also known by its other name, Fleas.
Okay.
I shall recite the poem now. Adam had 'em.
That's it.
Like Adam had fleas.
Yes.
I love it.
Lines on the Antiquity of Microbiomes. Adam had 'em.
Adam had him.
Shortest poem with the longest name.
I love it. I think it's funny.
Incredible.
So scientists have used fMRI scans to look at the brain while it reacts to poetry, and they've found that we seem to be hardwired to recognize and distinguish like poetic lines from ordinary speech or prose. Also, don't ask me what the difference between poetry and prose is, because
That's like the difference between art and porn.
it's, yeah. I mean, there is no definitive difference.
Mm-hmm.
It's a really loaded question. People have written like
entire
dissertations.
PhDs on it. Yeah.
dissertations on it. So
You're not going to find the answer to that in a comedy true crime podcast. Sorry.
nope. I also started to look into it. I was like, nope.
Bye-bye.
Yeah. So the most succinct definition that I saw was somebody said, and again, I didn't even bother putting this in my notes, but somebody said, so you take an idea or like a paragraph or whatever, you translate it, and everything that is translated cleanly is the prose, and everything left over is the poetry.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
Oh, so I thought that was kind of a cool definition. It's still really like heady and whatever, but basically it's just that's not what's going to be discussed here today. It's just not.
We'll get to some messy poetry translation.
Amazing.
Okay.
Perfect. Okay, so the same parts of our brain light up when we're reading or hearing poetry, and even poetry with like multiple layers of meaning. So those same parts light up as the parts that help us interpret everyday reality. So a recent study from the UK shows, even when poetry is read to a group of speakers of a totally different language with a totally different cultural poetic style, will tend to categorize poetic sentences as good versus bad.
It's sort of like hearing music. Like,
Yeah.
you can listen to music with lyrics in another language, but like if it slaps, it slaps. You don't necessarily have to know exactly what they're saying.
So we can recognize, and it sounds corny, but like we recognize the beauty in these like specific words, phrases in this specific pattern. We're attracted to it, regardless of whether we understand it or not.
That's cool. I like that.
Yeah.
The researchers also hooked up these subjects to EEG devices and observed a distinctive burst of electrical activity in the subjects' brains that occurred in the fraction of a second after hearing the last word of a poetic line.
Wow.
Isn't that so cool?
Science is wild.
I know. So here's a little bit more about another study, and this is a quote from howstuffworks.com.
Oh my God, yes.
Poetry also seems to affect specific areas of the brain depending upon the degree of emotion and the complexity of the language and ideas. In a study published in 2013 in Journal of Consciousness Studies, researchers at the UK's University of Exeter had participants lay inside an fMRI scanner while they read various texts on a screen. The selections ranged from deliberately dull prose, such as a section from a heating equipment installation manual.
Oh, God. Which, like, actually all I want for, like, sleep audio
Is that?
but, like, in a calming accent.
Like,
Do you ever listen to the Sleep With Me podcast?
I have, but honestly, it's, like, too interesting. Yeah.
You want like a professional writing ASMR podcast.
Yeah, it's like I am a nerd, so things that are like supposed to be nerdy, I find interesting. So I need it to be
doesn't
like
work on you.
genuinely dull.
You want it to be like twist the filter 90 degrees counterclockwise until it clicks.
Yeah.
You need someone to literally read your heating and cooling system manual to you in a nice voice.
Right.
Literally.
Yeah.
In a British
you can't
accent.
tell me about trains because I'm interested.
Duck decoys, I'll be up all night.
Yeah.
Sign me up. I'm never sleeping
now
again.
I have a new hyperfixation.
Oh, God.
Wow. You need to talk to your doctor.
No time, baby. No time.
I'm learning trains.
No time, baby. Okay, so they're reading this deliberately dull prose, and also they're reading passages from novels to samples from various poems, a few of which the subjects had previously identified as their favorites. The subjects had to rate the texts on qualities such as how much emotion they aroused, how literary these passages were, or how difficult they were to contemplate. The researchers found that the higher the degree of emotiveness that the subjects assigned to a sample, the more activation that the scans showed in areas on the right side of the brain. So many of the same ones identified in a 2001 study as being activated by music that moved listeners to feel chills or shivers down their spines.
Cool.
So like you were talking about music before, it's like the
emotive
thing.
stuff.
It's the same reaction in the brain.
Yeah, it hits the same parts of your brain. Yeah. That's fucking cool.
I love it. So the examples rated as more literary, in contrast, lit up areas mostly on the left side of the brain, including the basal ganglia,
Hot.
which are involved in both in regulating movement and processing challenging sentences. The subject's favorite poems weakly activated a network in the brain associated with reading, but strongly activated the inferior parietal lobes in an area associated with recognition. So basically, it appears that a person's favorite poems are remembered more than they are read.
Love
Got it.
that. We should devote more time to memorizing poems.
Should we?
Or not even just, the rote memorization isn't important. It's just the familiarity.
I know,
So-
it'd be cool to have a few dozen locked in.
Yeah.
You get on that.
All
I
right.
support you.
You do not need a new fixation right now.
Go for it. Fucking go for it.
So speaking of one's favorite poems, I'm
Oh,
going to
God.
read you a couple parts from one of my favorite poems. And I feel like this is like the favorite poem of a bunch of like college English majors, but
Whatever.
I like it because it's really dark.
Yep.
I think it's really dark.
Is it
and,
about teeth?
Or cats.
Yeah, actually, it is a little bit about cats. Well, one of
Oh
these
my
parts
God.
that I'm going to read is a little bit about cats. So this is
Of course.
these are a couple of segments from T.S. Eliot's The Love Song of J. Alfred Prufrock, or also just Prufrock. So here are a couple of my favorite parts. This is the part about cats. I'm going to read first. And keep in mind, this is a pretty long poem. I'm just pulling a couple sections out, so don't expect it to like sound that great. Okay. The yellow fog that rubs its back upon the window panes, the yellow smoke that rubs its muzzle on the window panes, licked its tongue into the corners of the evening, lingered upon the pool's stand and drains, let fall upon its back the soot that falls from chimneys, slipped by the terrace, made a sudden leap, and seeing that it was a soft October night, curled once about the house and fell asleep.
That's nice.
So, cat
like that.
feline imagery, but also like decay.
Feline imagery.
Feline imagery, but also like decay, the yellow fog, the yellow smoke. It's like creepy. It's creepy. It's lingering. It's haunting a little bit.
I like licked its tongue into the corners of the evening.
It's creepy. And of
I
course,
like
it's an
it.
October night. It's Halloweeny. Okay, so this next part, these are from two different like stanzas, but they sound good together. Okay. Shall I say I have gone at dusk through narrow streets and watched the smoke that rises from the pipes of lonely men in shirt sleeves leaning out of windows? I should have been a pair of ragged claws scuttling across the floors of silent seas.
Who's scuttling? Ugh.
Isn't that gross? I love
I
it
hate that
so
word.
much. But it's really emotive. Like you
Yeah.
can picture all of this.
Oh, yeah. You can hear it.
Well, I am reading it out loud, but yeah.
No, but I mean, like, you can hear the sound of the scuttling and not just the word scuttling.
Sure.
Scuttling across the floors of silent seas.
Nope.
It's that alliteration too that we're, it's oh yeah, it's so cool. It's creepy. Okay. And also this next part speaks to another reason why I love this poem, because I feel like it's just about like the anxieties of the human existence.
Great.
Cats, existential dread.
Yeah.
Exactly. Just like how
Lucy's kinks.
confusing it is to be a person and to like live in a society where we have to pretend like a lot of shit matters that really doesn't matter. I don't know. Okay. And would it have been worth it after all, after the cups, the marmalade, the tea, among the porcelain, among some talk of you and me, would it have been worthwhile to have bitten off the matter with a smile, to have squeezed the universe into a ball, to roll it towards some overwhelming question, to say, I am Lazarus, come from the dead, come back to tell you all, I shall tell you all. if one settling a pillow by her head should say, "That is not what I meant at all. That is not it at all."
Okay.
I love it. It gives me chills.
That made me sad.
It's like if you're dying, you're laying on your deathbed and you're like, "Wait, I didn't mean that. That's not what that was supposed to be. I don't get it. What the fuck just happened?
Do-over.
I want a do-over. What the fuck was all that?"
Yep.
That's what I get from that.
Yeah, that's the problem.
Scary.
That's what I don't like.
That's what I love.
My greatest fear is being on my deathbed, knowing it's coming and looking back at my life and feeling like it was too fast and I didn't do shit.
That pretty much sums it up.
Cool.
I think that when you think of warfare and the way that a lot of people die in an instant, in a violent instant, that maybe their last thought is what the fuck was that?
Yeah. I think that's probably a lot of people's last thought.
Yeah.
And I like to not think about that.
I love to think about it. So anyway, highly recommend that poem, T.S. Eliot. Okay, also, I have little notebooks that I keep and write poems and quotes and ideas and shit in. And not my own poems usually, but I did find one of my own poems, which I'm about to read to you.
Oh my God.
But I did find one of my tiny notebooks today. By tiny, I mean a little 5x3 little notebook I keep in my purse. So I found one today with an original poem.
Oh my God, yes.
I believe this is from 2012. It's the dropping, the plopping, the noises you hear, and the sounds you don't notice when no one is near. These sterile tiled walls with their dreaded acoustics.
Sounds like the yellow wallpaper.
This is about pooping.
Sounds like you've been committed.
This is me pooping in a corporate setting in 2012.
This is about pooping.
Oh, Amanda got it. Okay.
Yeah, sure did. I
dropping,
have an
the
elevated
plopping.
literary mind.
You do. The dropping, the plopping, the sterile tiled walls with their dreaded acoustics. It's being very dramatic.
Okay.
Also, I apparently used this particular notebook for writing notes when I worked at an unnamed home design magazine. And I was flipping through it. So I have terminology like wainscoting and all these names of these really bizarre designers from the early 20-aughts. And I found on one page labeled staff meeting 8/28, so August 28th. And the only notes I took was just scribbling in really large letters, "We knit our own lie."
Oh my God.
Lucy, could you take the minutes for this meeting?
Sure
Staff
can.
meeting?
I'm fine. I don't know why you're asking.
We knit our own lie.
We knit our own lie.
My
really
Lord.
kind of big. I'm sure whoever was sitting next to
Saw
me
it.
definitely saw
None
sure.
of my business. Looking the other way.
I'm avoiding that.
Oh my God.
Another poem I wrote in this little notebook, it's super short. It's by Mizuta Masahide, who was a poet and a samurai in 1700.
Cool.
So this very short poem says, "Since my house burned down, I now have a better view of the rising moon."
Wow.
Well, if that ain't optimism summed
Yep.
up.
It's a very Japanese sentiment, I feel. Okay, so this last little bit I have for you is more psychology. So poetry actually has the ability to heal us on a psychological level. And this is a quote from Psychology Today, an article by Diana Robb, PhD. Quote, "Reading and writing poetry encourages a certain interconnectedness and helps establish a sense of community between oneself and others. In other words, poetry can help us feel as if we're part of a larger picture and not just living in our own isolated little world. We learn that other people have embarked on similar journeys and have similar feelings about where they've been and where they're going. Writing poetry can be healing and transformative because poems reflect the voice of the soul. Writing poetry is also a way to nurture a mindfulness practice because when we're writing poems, we have the chance to unleash the unconscious mind.
Cool.
Sculpting our feelings and thoughts into a poem can take us on a journey where the conscious mind actually takes a little holiday. Writing poetry is a time to loosen up and allow the freedom of self-expression at a time when it is most when it is often needed the most. Writing poetry allows us to tap into our authentic voices, which can lead to self-realization. It can also be a form of meditation because it encourages a sense of mindfulness and the ability to tap into what we're feeling, seeing, and experiencing at the moment of writing. Henry David Thoreau once said that if we sit in a clearing long enough, the animals will come out of the woods and present themselves. Figuratively speaking, this also happens when we write poetry. All sorts of surprises can come to light.
Yeah.
So I just love poems. I just like writing my own stupid little poems about pooping and whatever. And then
I love it.
If I see like a little segment of a poem that I love, I'll write it in my little notebook. And yeah, it's its own form of little mini therapy, mini meditation. So if you're not already into it,
really spoke to me.
Yeah,
I know it
Amanda
did.
got it right away.
Immediately, I was there,
Kenyon was like,
transported.
this speaks to
Are you being committed?
And I'm like,
inner
pooping.
workings
It's about
of-
pooping.
pooping. It's pooping.
I'm calling it right now. This is about pooping.
It was absolutely about pooping.
I used to write a lot of poetry, but
You did.
I used to write a lot of poetry, but then I don't know. I think I just like got older and more self-conscious and just stopped.
It's
Probably
easy
for
to
the
do
best.
that because you feel, I mean, like you can kind of feel like you're being kind of smarmy about it, but it, it's not like you're writing a book. It's not like you're Rupi Kaur. like, and I have nothing personally against her, but it's this I mean, there's a lot of criticism about her writing, which I feel like as long as you're creating something, putting it out in the world, and other people are relating to it, you are doing a good job.
Right.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of criticism with her being like an Instagram poet, but it's like
Who cares?
if there is a poet that speaks to our generation who's not an Instagram poet or Amanda Gorman, I don't even know who is. So
Right.
yeah,
Yeah. Fuck everyone. Fuck the critics.
Yeah,
fuck the
seriously.
critic. But also I love
And
Amanda
like,
Gorman.
I also feel like that kind of criticism comes from some like gatekeeping about how poetry is supposed to be consumed in
Absolutely.
like an intellectual environment. And it's like, well, if you're getting it up, if it's accessible to everyone on Instagram, then it's not
Then
real
it must not be
poetry.
valuable. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, fuck you.
Yeah. It's super
No.
accessible. It's really easy to consume. I mean, they're short little, like, max 10 lines. And there's cute little illustrations with them. So
I
don't
love
know.
it.
Just go for it. Read what you like to read. Write what you like to write. Nobody.
Exactly.
You're not out there
Fuck
to impress
everyone.
anyone.
Yeah.
Just
Fuck
yeah.
everyone.
Everyone is
meditative.
garbage. Fuck them all.
Fuck them all. Anyway,
Fuck 'em
that's my
all.
segment.
Well
Love
done.
it.
Let's hear a word from our sponsors.
Let's do it.
Hey.
You know, hot take, but I'm going to go out there and say happiness does not always come from within.
Honestly,
Rarely.
it rarely does. Yeah, there it is.
Like inner peace is great and all, but you know what's better? Making it to that next level on Best Fiends.
Heck yeah.
And in my case, that would be level 1443.
Oh, you're both farther than
Whoa.
me.
That is what true satisfaction feels like.
Honey, you're cruising. I'm on level 2,816.
Look out behind ya.
Whatever. Still nowhere near Josh Hallmark. It's fine.
Yeah.
But I love this game. Listen, I have ADHD. It's hard to hold my attention for a long time. But this game, it's always fresh. It's always fun. It's always new. They do all these cool seasonal challenges. The characters are so freaking cute. I love playing this game. And once you download Best Fiends, you can play anywhere, even without an internet connection. So this is like my favorite go-to when we're traveling. Can play it on an airplane. If you're stuck without Wi-Fi. I know Lucy was having issues with Wi-Fi yesterday.
Oh, I cruised through about 60 levels yesterday afternoon.
You got to. You can collect tons of fiends that get powered up as you play more levels, and every win brings new challenges, thousands of puzzles to play. Like, it's always fresh. You're not going to get bored. And there are new in-game events added all the time. Right now, there is like an Easter event. These are always my favorite, the little mini board games where you collect the dice and then you roll the dice and you get all these like boosts and
it's such a
treats.
rush.
It is. I love it. And with thousands of levels, there's always more to play. So go ahead. Let enough is never enough be your mantra.
It's never enough. So download Best Fiends for free from the App Store or Google Play, plus earn even more with $5 worth of in-game rewards when you reach level 5. That's friends without the R, Best Fiends.
It can be hard to see the light at the end of the tunnel when you have high interest debt.
Yep. Been there.
Oh, yup. And sometimes it can be even harder to ask for help. And that is where Upstart comes in.
Upstart-powered personal loans can help you pay down high-interest debt all online with simple and easy-to-understand payment terms. Thank you, Upstart, for that. Oh, my gosh. Upstart has helped over 1.8 million customers on their path to financial freedom. So whether it's paying off credit cards, consolidating high-interest debt, or funding personal expenses, Upstart can help you get one fixed monthly payment with a clear payoff date. Upstart knows you're more than just your credit score, so rather than looking at your credit score alone, Upstart's model considers other factors like your income, employment, and other information provided in your loan application to find you a smarter rate for your loan. You can check your rate in minutes for loans between $1,000 to $50,000 without impacting your credit score.
Love.
You can even receive funds as fast as one business day after accepting your loan.
So don't wait and check your rate today at upstart.com/gals, G-A-L-S. That's upstart.com/gals to check your rate today. Don't forget to use our URL and let them know we sent you. Loan amounts will be determined based on your credit, income, and certain other information provided in your loan application. Go to upstart.com/gals. So, like I said during Lucy's segment,
yes.
Anytime we have a topic that you think is going to be nice and light.
Oh, yeah, mine's pretty bad, too. Don't worry.
You can guarantee that I'm going to bring it back down. So
1,000%. You are so reliable. I really appreciate this. I can always count on you.
Hello, darkness, my old friend. Yeah.
Hello, Kenyon, my
old friend.
My
oldest
in darkness.
friend.
Literally
Honestly,
my oldest friend.
I don't know if I don't know where the funny will be in this. There's not much funny in this.
We
We're
always
gonna get
find
to
it.
Great,
Okay.
great.
We always find it.
All right. So we're going to Citilio Varese in northern Italy, like north of Milan, in 1987.
All right.
So the last time anyone besides her killer saw Lydia Macchi alive, she was visiting a friend in the hospital on January 5th, 1987.
Bury the lead, why don't you?
I know. The friend would later tell investigators that Lydia had spent about half an hour with her friend inside the building before leaving around 8:20 p.m. Lydia's parents, Paola and Giorgio Macchi, were expecting their daughter home for dinner that evening, and she lived not far from the hospital, so they expected her around like 8:30 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
But she never showed. Beside themselves with worry, the Macchi family reported Lydia missing that night, and several of her friends joined them in searching for her in the following days. But then, just 2 days later, on January 7th, the beautiful young student was found dead in a wooded area near the hospital's car park and also nearby, like a railway station.
Yeah.
And
How old did you say she was? Like 19?
She was 20.
Oh, okay.
So there was like a big forest/park not far away, but this was like, and some people accidentally like misattribute where her remains were found to that forest, but actually it was just kind of like a scrubby wooded area in between the hospital and the railway station.
Got it.
She had been brutally attacked. There was evidence of rape, and she'd suffered an almost unimaginable 29 stab wounds.
Ooh.
Oh my God.
To the throat, the neck, the chest, and then the thigh and her back. So she was like, there was obviously a struggle. She was fighting back. At one point,
She rolled around,
flipped over, and then was stabbed in the back. Oh. Her remains also weren't really hidden. Like, she hadn't been buried or anything. The killer had instead just placed a piece of like trash cardboard, probably that was like found nearby.
This is so crazy because my guy did like basically the same shit.
Weird.
Just plop them in the woods.
Yeah.
Anyone's gonna fucking find it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, no fucks.
Yep. So just put this piece of cardboard over the body. That's it.
There's something creepier about that. About like the confidence, the quiet confidence of just, I'm not even going to try to really hide this.
You're just trash. They just discarded.
Right.
Like, and it's right by where she was last seen, where she was taken, and
so you know
where the crime was committed.
Right. They're going to retrace those steps and they're going to find her body like immediately. Like he knew that.
Yeah.
Fuck.
So one article I read that had been rather poorly translated into English, and a lot of this stuff has been translated from Italian into English with like Google Translate or God knows what else. So like, bear with me. But this article said that this rape was undoubtedly her first sexual experience. And that is what the autopsy determined, that like shortly before, like very shortly before her death, she had her first sexual experience. Or penetrative sexual experience. And that is also what friends and family believed, because Lydia was like devoutly religious, and we will get to it more. And she had spoken often about like valuing her quote unquote virginity. And she'd even kind of like toyed with the idea of becoming a nun one day. And also this like question of virginity will come up again later when we get to the suspects. So.
Oh God. Great.
It's believed that her attacker grabbed her while she was getting into her car, or maybe like she had just gotten into her car but hadn't started driving yet. And actually, I think it was the family's car that she had borrowed, but the car that she was driving. And small amounts of blood were found inside the car and also on the driver's side door. But the majority of the attack, which involved like serious blood loss, happened in the woods because there was only like a small amount of blood found in the car. So like he probably like threatened her with a knife. Maybe there was a small cut, and then he like got her to go into the woods with him.
God.
So some more about Lydia before we get into this. So she was smart. Again, she was studying law at the university. She was really sporty. She loved the outdoors. She was active in this like group scouting kind of activity. So kind of like Girl Scouts, and did lots of like camping. In fact, actually, this happened in early January. Over the Christmas holidays, just before her murder, she had been on a 4-day camping excursion with her church group in the mountains. It was supposed to be like a spiritual camping retreat. She was an active member in this conservative Catholic cultural group that has like a super creepy name, I think. It's called Communion and Liberation.
Oh.
So maybe that's just a translation issue, why it sounds like a fucking Dan Brown cult, but it was a conservative Catholic group that planned activities, but they were for like young people, so they were also like cultural activities, not just strictly religious ones.
It's Girl Scouts.
Yeah.
It's like Catholic
Bible Scouts.
Yeah, basically, yeah. So now she's studying law at the University of Milan, and she just had her whole life ahead of her.
Yeah.
And then her future is just like senselessly ripped away.
That's so sad. What a fucking waste.
Yeah. So why and like who fucking did this? So on the day of Lydia's funeral, just a few days later, on January 10th, her parents received a strange letter in the mail. It was a copy of a handwritten and extremely disturbing poem.
No.
Entitled In Morte de un'amica, which means on the death of a friend. And it read as follows. And this is, again, Google Translate of a poem. So good luck. Death screams against his fate. Screams of horror to be death. Horrible caesura. Torture of flesh. Death screams and cries. The man of the cross. I refuse. The great refusal. Fight. The war of always. And the mother, the tender mother, with the crying brothers. Why me? Because you. Ugh. Why in this night of frost that the stars are so beautiful, the offended body tapped temple veil, or it could be translated the veil of the ripped temple, which is believed to be like a reference to hymen / virginity, but it's also a Bible quote from the Gospel of Matthew.
Ripped temple.
Yeah. Lies. How can you stay hanging on the wood in the name of justice, in the name of man, in the name of respect for man? Pass the glass here, but the dread lady high screams your reasons. Consummatum est, which is apparently there's like a typo. It's like incorrect Latin, but it's supposed to mean everything is finished. This is the scotto. I don't know what that part is. I couldn't figure it out.
That's fine. You're doing great.
Scotto biscotti means cooked twice.
Twice.
Oh, God.
Non abbiamo vino, non abbiamo birra, non è una festa. Okay.
I have no idea what spirit just took you, but okay.
I don't either, but I love it.
I had one semester of Italian freshman year of college, and
She was crazy mean,
I
wasn't
had a
she?
crazy mean professor who was a perfect circle. She just was a circular entity.
Spherical.
A spherical woman.
She's a meatball.
We had a party in class, but then she was like, we don't have wine, we don't have beer, this isn't a party.
Oh, fair enough.
Made you all go home.
And that's like all I remember from Italian class.
Sure.
And biscotti means cooked twice.
Biscotti means cooked twice. So, this is the scotto of the ancient error. And you, lamb without stain.
No. No.
And you, purified lamb, fold your head, fear and docile, sacrificial lamb, that nothing strike, not a complaint, yet a sound, a breeze persists. Restore our arid valleys in this night of plants, in the name of him, of the one who preceded us. Crucifix, suspended by two beams, in the name of the Father, be your will.
I hate everything
Really
about
hate it.
that.
Yeah.
Really creepy poem, obviously like overbearing religious imegery.
Uh-huh.
I don't like high screams.
No.
That
And,
might be
like-
my least favorite part.
So wait, is this a poem that someone else wrote, or are we to believe that this person wrote this poem?
This person wrote the poem. We don't know
Okay.
if the person writing the poem was the killer, but this was not like a published poem that someone found, that they
Got
wrote
it.
this. And also there's like references to like the scene of the crime and like the loss of virginity and like just tons of religious shit. And she was super religious. And it was sent to her parents in the mail anonymously on the day of her funeral.
Yeah,
Hate it.
nope.
No.
Yep. So at the bottom of this creepy poem, it was signed CL, but these are not the initials of the author. Rather, it was in the logo of that group, the Communion and Liberation, CL, the conservative Catholic group that Lydia was a member of.
Got it.
And it wasn't just like the letters, it was like written in the logo style. So for a while, investigators looked into a priest named Don Antonio, who was connected with that group and was like a group leader of a lot of outings and knew Lydia. And he also, I read in some places, may have been accused, but like unofficially, by like several parishioners of sexual misconduct. But like obviously nothing was like in writing because it was the 80s. So police were looking into him for a while, but then his alibi was really solid. He was like at some retreat with other priests. And so he ceased to be a person of interest. And so for the next almost 30 years, Lydia's case grew cold
Oh, fuck.
until 2013 when the investigation was reopened.
Wow. Well, I can't wait to hear what happened to reopen this investigation.
I think it was just reopened because it was it shook the area and it was just this like well-known case, and they just
It was like
were
prominent enough that they were like, well,
let's try
poke around in
let's-
there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
poke around. Let's see if maybe there's some like DNA evidence, because it was the 80s, so it's not like they could do any DNA shit when it first happened.
Totally.
But
Well,
they're
also,
like,
if everybody had heard of it, like they just look like total assholes for not.
yeah, I think some cold cases get reopened without new information yet, but the goal is to dig up that new information.
True. Fair enough.
So for a while, then they looked into a local house painter in his 60s. His name is Giuseppe Piccolomo, and his wife worked night shifts at that hospital.
That's curious.
And what's
So
more,
there's a connection there.
there's a bit of a connection. What's more, he'd already been convicted and was serving life in prison for the murder of a different woman. I'm assuming that was a rape case, but I couldn't find out. And his daughters told investigators that before he was convicted of that murder and they had like contact with him, he would frequently threaten his daughters that like they better be careful or like they too would end up like Lydia Maki.
Okay.
My God. Okay, but he's already in prison.
But he wasn't in prison at the
At
time
the
of the
time.
murder.
Okay.
Yeah, but he's in prison as
Now.
of 2013.
Right.
Yeah. But DNA evidence on Lydia's collar and also other evidence in her pubic area didn't match him. It didn't rule him out,
But it wasn't like a smoking gun.
but it didn't rule him in either. The pubic area thing was like, they believe actually hair from someone's head, not a pubic hair, that had been broken into several pieces and could have been belonging to the killer, could have been belonging to like someone else who handled her body, like the coroner or like whoever, you know. They don't know for sure, but it didn't match him. And then whatever evidence was on her collar didn't match him either.
Okay.
But it's not like they have a ton of, like, I don't think that they have like semen or anything. Not that I read. So I don't think Piccolomo has been officially cleared, but investigators have since moved on to another suspect. So finally, in January of 2016, a man named Stefano Binda was arrested on suspicion of her murder.
Classic Binda.
Fucking Binda.
Binda done that.
Binda done did that. Maybe. I don't know for sure.
Baby.
So Stefano had attended.
That's what his lawyer says.
Stefano had attended high school with Lydia, and he was also a fellow member of the CL group. And he was also, to put it mildly, a bit of an odd duck.
Oh, dear.
So in sum, from all the different shit that I read about him, and you can go on the Drive or the blog and look at pictures of him, he's got some really, really nasty facial hair in one of the pics.
Not fun.
Nope.
Like, that's like
Yeah.
a goat teeth.
Yeah.
Goat
Yeah.
tea. There's
Yeah.
a goat dangling off of his chin.
Yes. It's really bad. He's got scary
Not
eyes.
great. Not great.
Also, if men are still cutting their hair like that in their middle age or later,
Evaluate your life.
need intervention.
Yeah. So he's an odd duck. In sum, he's basically, or like was when he was young, devoutly religious, later unemployed. He was a philosophy major. He still lives with his mom. And he allegedly has an on-again, off-again heroin problem.
Oh,
good.
okay. Nailing it.
Right.
So he, I think, denies the heroin problem, but I did read it in a lot of places.
Wouldn't you?
Yeah, I don't know. So a friend, this is in I don't know if it was in 2016. It was after the investigation was reopened. A friend or like an acquaintance saw a copy of the poem in the news and recognized Binda's handwriting
Oh, shit.
and
That's
called
why
the police.
Kenyon could never write a
So was this
ransom
going to be
poem.
for handwriting analysis?
Yeah.
Knew it.
Yeah. So recognized the handwriting, had some postcards from Stefano, so that she was able to bring these to the police and be like, this is this dude's handwriting. And then indeed, handwriting analysis conclusively linked Stefano Binda to the poem that was sent to the
Wow.
Maki family, as well as to another sheet of paper that was found in his apartment, I believe after all these years.
Wow.
that read, quote, Stefano is a barbaric murderer.
Well,
Okay.
telling on yourself.
And Binda is apparently a graphomaniac. He just like handwrites a ton of shit.
Oh, like you.
Yeah. So there was just tons of handwritten material in his home.
Yeah. Just the
compare.
evidence was stacked.
Yeah. And he writes in like all caps. I don't know. So the Milan prosecutors' theory is that Stefano had been obsessed with Lydia. They definitely knew each other. They were even friends, but they were not in a romantic relationship together at any point. And the theory goes that he like put her and her virginal purity on a pedestal.
Of course.
No.
Of fucking course.
But then for whatever reason, he grew to suspect that she had, quote, broken her chastity vow.
Oh, for God's sake.
Which, like, probably was entirely in his head, but also none of his fucking business.
Yup.
Disgusting. Also a societal construct.
Yep. And he became enraged and, like, stalked her, basically, like, followed her to the hospital or, like, knew she was going to be there visiting a friend. You know, grabbed her, raped her, and killed her when she fought back.
You're not a virgin anymore. I'm so mad. I'm going to rape you.
Seriously.
And kill you. And then torture your parents by sending them this poem on the day of your funeral.
Jesus.
fucking
What a
Christ.
psychopath.
So that's the theory. At the end of February 2016, investigators requested that Lydia's remains be exhumed from the Casbeno Cemetery in Varese. They wanted to look for trace DNA evidence that wouldn't have been collected at the time because they didn't know to collect it, that they could try to compare to Binda. And Lydia's family was supportive of the exhumation request. And they actually submitted their own request to be like, yes, please do this. Because they're just eager for...
They want to know.
Yeah.
They want closure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Of course.
Their daughter was murdered in a horrible, gruesome way. And then just 30 years of nothing, just questions.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I believe she was exhumed, but I don't know that they were able to glean that much from that. The area where Lydia's remains were found was also searched yet again. Obviously, it had been searched a bunch at the time, but they were like, let's just search it again. And they were looking for the knife that was the murder weapon, which had never previously been found. And they found like 6 knives and a sickle and a bunch of trash.
But none of it was
Yeah.
the murder weapon.
Not that they could conclusively prove. No, I don't. Yeah.
I mean, who doesn't have a bunch of knives?
There's just a bunch
Who
of...
doesn't
like,
have a sickle?
well, it's like, you know, apparently this wooded area is like sometimes used by drug users or like sex workers. And it's just...
Well, also, even if they had found, I don't know. It looks bad, but also like that phrase, like everything looks like a nail when you have a hammer. Kind of
Right,
a
when
thing.
your only tool is a hammer. Yeah.
I mean, the chances of going back to this area, which is like not a remote area, it's like in a city, to find the murder weapon after 30 years, like, no, you're not going to find it there. But anyway. So sadly, much of the other physical evidence in the case has been lost over time because they didn't really know to keep some of it.
Oh.
Or it was just lost. And that includes the seat of the car in which Lydia had been driving, and that had, you know, been stained with small amounts of presumably her blood, but, you know, who knows? There could have been some of the killer's blood. We don't know. Her shoes, some of her clothes are missing, but they do still have, they have some of her clothes, but they lost some of her other clothes, basically. And also the envelope that the poem had been mailed in.
Oh, which could have been licked.
Which could have been licked. The saliva.
God damn it.
I don't lick envelopes anymore.
Well, no,
Not because I'm
since
doing
COVID.
anything wrong, but because I don't want anyone to have my DNA without my information. Also, it tastes gross.
It tastes gross.
horrible. Cannot be good for you. The Seinfeld
don't-
episode.
Yeah. I just get the ones with the peel sticky.
The peel sticky is good, although
Yep.
investigators must hate it.
I have a tube of, it's essentially like fake saliva. And it has like a spongy top. And that's how
I used to have one of those at my old desk job.
I love it. Well, I stole it from my last desk job.
It's basically a bingo blotter without any ink.
I love it. Anyway.
So, based largely on the handwriting analysis of the poem and like the other circumstantial evidence that he was like a fucking weirdo and knew her. Binda was convicted of first-degree murder in April 2018. And at this point, now in his 50s, he was sentenced to life in prison. Case closed.
Oh, God. Of course not. It's a Kenyan case.
Based on your inflection, I'm going to say no.
Sadly, no. In July 2019, Binda's appeal was successful. And basically, the defense argued that, like, just because he conclusively wrote that creepy poem
doesn't mean he killed her.
Doesn't mean he was the killer, because there was nothing in the poem that wasn't, like, pretty publicly available information at the time.
/ wasn't fucking bonkers.
Yeah, it's like the poem hints at rape.
I get, yeah.
And like the woods and the cold night. But like all of that was pretty much known at the time. And the poem was sent after her body was found and after like some information about the case had come out, but before the funeral. So it wasn't like he wrote it before the body was found.
Right.
So, yeah, basically it just because he's a creep doesn't mean he's the creep.
Right.
Yep.
I think he's the creep, but...
Yeah.
We all think he's the creep.
I don't know. It might be that house painter guy. But anyway, he was acquitted of the murder and the judge ordered his immediate release from prison. And he'd served about 3 years, including like pre-trial detention because he wasn't granted bail. He was like deemed a flight risk. So he was in prison for about 3 years for this. But yeah, now he is free and Lydia's murder is officially unsolved and is once again a cold case.
Wow.
I mean,
weird.
it's frustrating, but it's also good to know that people can't just be thrown in jail for
Of course.
Evidence that's lacking. Because this was as weird and creepy as it was, it's lacking.
Yeah. I think that if they had kept more of the physical evidence and there could be more tests done against Binda and against Piccolomo, the guy in prison, who I don't know if I think he's still alive, but in prison, there might have been a chance of solving this. I don't know. The house painter guy, it's like we know he's a murderer. We know he had a connection to the hospital. He talked about the case for years after to his children.
True. Yeah.
Are you not allowed to just like get DNA samples from people who are already in prison?
I just don't think they have that much to test it against is the issue.
Okay.
Like
yeah, if there was enough for this person to already be in a database, then yeah, run it. But because of the time frame of these cases, it easily could have just missed that window of collecting enough evidence on this convicted person or previously convicted person.
I don't think the issue is getting his DNA. I think the issue is that there's just not enough
of
evidence
or of her
from the scene remaining.
Because they didn't keep the right stuff or whatever.
Yeah, because it was
they
the
didn't
80s.
know.
They didn't know. And then they exhumed her body, which is, like, I think pretty hard to get the rights to do in Italy.
Yeah, and then if there's decay and stuff, getting another person's residual DNA years later.
Yeah, getting trace evidence DNA after a body's been autopsied.
Not easy.
And presumably, like, preserved in some way and buried for 29 years. Like, you're not...
I would say no.
Yeah.
But that aside, like going the other way, I'm curious to know whether, let's say you went to prison for something like a white-collar crime, like a nonviolent something or other. Do they take your DNA before you go into prison? Like, are you in a database?
I believe so.
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, if you're convicted, I believe so.
Okay.
But I don't know in Italy,
That's true. It's Italy.
you know? Yeah. So
Creepy. I liked the
weird.
poem. Well, the
Yeah,
silent
well.
scream part.
the poem is horrific.
Or the
I
high
don't know.
scream. High screams.
If it was just the poem, I would say, actually, it's probably not this guy. But the fact that there was another sheet of paper in which he wrote about himself in the third person that he's a barbaric murderer,
Yeah.
that's fairly damning to me, but not enough to convict in a court of law.
None
Right.
of the, yeah.
It was the right legal call to overturn.
Right.
and free him. But
And it could have been neither of these guys and just some other fucking crazed rapist asshole who, saw an opportunity of a young girl getting in her car at night.
right, and then these two fucking weirdos glommed onto it because of their own issues.
Right.
Which we know that can happen.
Yeah.
People get obsessed.
Yeah.
Ugh. I hate the not knowing. I hate that.
I love it. You know I love it.
No, you're a monster.
Open-ended, scuttling claws across the silent floors of the sea.
Open-ended.
You're a bad person. You love a sequel, but no.
So that's why I didn't do it for handwriting, because he was acquitted.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you had to get that green pen in there for handwriting.
Right.
Weren't you the one with the green pen? That was a good one.
Yeah. Yeah. Found a good backup.
You found a good one.
You did great.
All right.
Nice
so
job.
That's my case.
Wow.
Good work.
Well, great. Should we take a quick sponsor break?
Mental health
Yeah.
break.
God.
I'll be right back.
So lately, I have been trying really hard to focus on buying more sustainable pieces for my wardrobe, like higher quality pieces, things that I know are really going to last a long time and not, just one season and then get thrown into a garbage dump.
Yep.
So one way that I am doing that and sticking by those values that are important to me is by shopping from Everlane. And that is because Everlane is committed to doing the right thing from start to finish. That means partnering with ethical factories to ensure that every piece of clothing looks and feels great for years to come.
Yeah, Everlane has the cutest staples. I am wearing one of their alpaca wool cardigans right now.
Cute.
And I'm so cozy. It's like not itchy at all. It's super soft. And I feel good about knowing that it was made ethically, because that's kind of hard to come by these days.
Ah, who knew?
And like Kenyon mentioned, their trend-proof quality is made to last. So you can say goodbye to unsustainable fast fashion. Everlane designs timeless closet staples that you can wear over and over again. I love so they had to have a ton of denim that's super cute.
Yup.
And they have just really nice, like polished-looking tops. I also have this really cute kind of oversized button-up Oxford shirt.
Yup.
I feel so classy.
I just
when
got
I'm
one of
wearing
their
that.
denim jackets, and it's like I'm reliving my classic 90s fashion
Best life.
dreams.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Each garment is made from the finest materials like grade A cashmere, Italian leather, and Peruvian Pima cotton. Everlane strives to use the most sustainable materials from farm to factory, so they prioritize natural fibers and use recycled synthetics for performance and durability. That just means the world to me. I love the way that they do business.
Yeah. It's the best. So if you want to do things differently from your core to your closet, shop Everlane. Go to everlane.com/gals and sign up for 10% off your first order. That's 10% off your first order when you go to everlane.com/gals and sign up. Everlane, ethically made, sustainably sourced, and treat your wardrobe.
Treat it. So everybody has that one item of clothing that just fits so well every time you put it on. If you just want to be comfortable, you head straight for that, old V-neck t-shirt or whatever.
It's like your
beeline.
favorite burner on the stove.
Yep.
The one.
It's just your default. And it's just so comfortable. And for Third Love, that default is their 24/7 classic t-shirt bra. It is their #1 bra for a reason. It offers unparalleled comfort thanks to every unique detail in its fit, style, function, and design. Loved and worn by millions of people with boobs, it doesn't pinch or dig. Key. Those are key. You won't want to take it off the minute you walk in the door.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Which, hi, guilty. So the 24/7 t-shirt bra is designed to fit and form to your body because every detail has been made with ultimate comfort in mind. It's ultra thin. It's got memory foam cups that give your boobs everyday comfort and support. Their luxe straps never slip. It is so smoothing, it looks invisible no matter what you wear. I always get those gaps, the cup gaps.
Yeah.
Not with this baby. It's also available in cups A through I, including Third Love's exclusive half cups.
Yeah, it's amazing. I have, I think, 2 different 24/7 classic t-shirt bras from Third Love. I've replaced all of my bras with Third Love bras. I've got a bunch of their styles. And I was a little bit skeptical about ordering bras online, but they have this amazing fitting room quiz. And I had been wearing the wrong bra size my whole life.
Yeah.
And this fitting room quiz taught me that. And also, your bra size can change pretty frequently.
A lot.
You know, statistically.
Like with the weather, it seems.
Yeah, by season, by where you're at in your life, just if there's world events stressing you out.
My boobs always respond to world events every time.
Yes, my boobs are my own NPR. And so you're going to want to take that fitting room quiz, maybe if you've already done it, maybe it's time to do it again. And
take it regularly.
Yeah. You might be one of the 80% of people with boobs wearing the wrong bra size, just like I was, and Third Love will actually change your life.
They will guide you. So, feeling is believing. Give your boobs the 24/7 comfort and support they deserve. Upgrade your bra today and get 20% off your first order at thirdlove.com/gals. That's 20% off at thirdlove.com/gals and treat your bubbies.
Trade 'em. So we have some titillating news.
Ooh!
A very good friend of the pod and the host of the podcast, The Disability After Dark, Andrew Gurza, and his sister, Heather Morrison, have officially launched Bumpin', the first sex toy company to service the disabled community.
This is so amazing. Their initial product, the Bumpin' Joystick, is the world's first disability-driven sex toy for people with hand limitations like cerebral palsy, MS, chronic pain, arthritis, injury, or for people who just want to use their hands for other things.
Multitasking.
I love this so much. The Bumpin' Joystick pre-sales are open right now, and you can pre-order your very own, or you can purchase a joystick or a gift card for that deliciously disabled person in your life right now at www.getbumpin.com. That's GETBUMPN.com, and get it on.
Yeah.
Are you ready for my case?
Maybe. I never know with you people.
This case is wild. It's so bonkers. Like, as I was researching this, I'm just like, fuck, I can't believe what folks will do when, like, swayed by decent writing skills. I can't. So here we go.
I will do almost anything. That's why I have an English major.
Precisely. So, Johann Jack Unterweger, he goes by Jack.
He now goes by Unterweger.
Unterweger was born in Austria on August 16th, 1950. He was a Leo. His mother, Teresia, was a waitress in Vienna, and his father, Jack Becker, was an American soldier. The two met while he was deployed, and there are some who speculate that Teresia was a sex worker. She was actually imprisoned on charges of fraud while pregnant with baby Jack, but was released before he was born, so he was not born in prison.
Okay. Rough start.
Yeah. And, like, the dad was never in the picture. He never knew the dad. He was just like there, deployed, slept with this woman. She got pregnant. He's gone.
She goes to prison.
She went to prison for unrelated issues and had her own rough life.
Fair.
Yeah. So Teresia, I'm not sure how she pronounced her name, continued to have run-ins with the law after Jack was born, and he ended up having to go live with his grandfather, which wasn't much of an upgrade. His grandfather was cold and strict and also had a knack for crime and looping Jack in on his schemes to steal livestock and other animals from surrounding farms.
Oh, some rustling.
He was also an alcoholic who had Jack drinking schnapps with him by the age of 10.
Oh, no, not schnapps. Oh,
No.
Yikes.
Oh, God.
Yeah, not great.
Stuff is coming up.
Yeah. So as a result, Jack was in and out of police custody and juvenile detention throughout his childhood and adolescence. Most of these stints were for crimes of theft, but he was also jailed for, quote, pimping and sexual assault of a sex worker.
Not great.
Nope.
Is he still 10?
No, but he would. But, like, from the time he was young, this was like his teenagehood. So it's not like he was an adult.
He wasn't that old. He just, but when you start that hard of a life at that age.
Right. So this was like his adolescence into his 20s. And then basically between 1966 and 1974, so the time he was 16 until whenever 1974 was, he was almost constantly in jail.
Okay.
But he was out of jail in December of 1974 and, while free, propositioned a German woman. Some reports said she was a sex worker. Some did not mention this. Named Margaret Schaefer. When she declined intercourse with him, he hit her over the head with a lead pipe and strangled her with her own bra strap until she died and left her body in the woods.
My God.
Cool.
Yep.
So he's a nice guy.
Super nice guy.
Fuck.
She was quickly found, like the same shit with Kenyon's
Yeah, just left her there.
You just left her there. And yeah. She was quickly found, and Jack was almost immediately connected to this crime. Some reports say he did this with his girlfriend at the time, who may have even turned him in, but I wasn't able to completely substantiate that. And either way, he killed a woman and was caught for it. So
either
period,
so
full
like
stop.
the girlfriend could have been there,
turned him in, or someone
could have
saw
been an
him.
accessory after the fact, or could have just figured it out and turned him in.
Either way,
Yeah.
he got caught. So at his trial, he didn't claim complete innocence, but that he had a mental breakdown because of his tumultuous relationship with his mother, pictured this woman as his mother. He's like, I literally saw my mother's face on this woman's body, and lost his mind completely.
Classic.
I mean, okay,
yeah.
still not.
You can hate
mean,
your mom and not kill innocent people.
Yeah, exactly. Who doesn't have a tumultuous relationship with their mom?
Fucking take a number, dude.
He's trying to pull some Ed Gein bullshit, is really what he's doing. So he claimed that he had developed some kind of psychosis related to sex workers because of his mother and the women that his grandfather would bring home, and alleged that he was forced to sleep in the same bed with his grandfather even while he was rendezvousing with sex workers.
Maybe he was. I mean, it sounds like he had a rough fucking childhood.
Yeah.
And obviously, like, he's not well.
No.
But
you can be not well and not a murderer.
Right.
He's a piece of shit.
Yeah,
I'm not.
exactly. Oh, I'm just,
Yeah.
He's not well,
This guy's
but
a piece
he's
of
still a killer.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, and this claim was rebuked in court by family members who took the stand, but honestly, who knows? Like, it's not unlikely that there was some kind of trauma in this household. It's almost guaranteed that there was. One report I read in The Independent said that his grandfather was indeed physically abusive in caring for him and an aunt who lived with them. And this aunt was also a sex worker and had been killed by a client. So there's like a lot of trauma in this house.
Yeah, a lot of just bad shit. in the house.
Yeah.
Yeah. Regardless of his claims of insanity and his like clearly rough upbringing, he was found guilty of the murder he committed and sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole after 15 years, which is the minimum in Austria.
Okay.
So while in prison, he devoted himself to literature and poetry.
Oh God, I
Some
forgot
reports-
I forgot the topic. It always
know,
comes
right?
as a surprise.
I know.
We took a hard left into poetry.
Some reports said that he literally taught himself how to read and write. And like, that doesn't surprise me considering his upbringing. Like, he wasn't really in school. So he probably wasn't super, super literate. And then in prison devoted himself to,
It's hard to study when you're drunk on schnapps at 10.
Yeah, exactly. So he taught himself how to read and devoured every book that he could get his hands on, and even began to write his own works. He processed the trauma of his childhood by writing it all out in plays, short stories, novels, and poems. His book, Endstation Zuchthaus, which means terminal prison, won a literary prize in 1984. Unterweger's autobiography, Feggefühl, which means purgatory.
Such a beautiful language.
Right. Zoomed to the top of the bestseller list and was adapted into a movie.
Have you guys seen that TikTok of the two people or the three people?
Oh, yes. Saying
like
things in like French, English, French,
Portuguese,
Italian. Yeah.
It's English,
Like, beautiful
Portuguese, and
language.
German. And the German girl is just screaming.
Yeah, it's so good.
Like, ambulance, ambulancia. Frattentugenschlagen.
We have to find that. It's so good.
I recently was scrolling on Netflix, and you know how it like auto plays the trailers now for everything? I hate that.
Yes, I hate it.
But it auto played the trailer for the German version of the new Queer Eye.
Yes.
Queer Eye.
It's so funny. It's just so serious. It was like the fashion
so
guy.
severe.
And he just was like, all that matters is that you like it. Do you like how you look? And it's like,
do I?
really accusatory.
Why are you yelling at me?
And she just kept being like, it's colorful.
Oh my God, the poor thing. I love it so much. Now I need you to find me that TikTok.
Butterfly, Schmetterfly, Schmetterling.
Pretty much. So this is a quote from The Independent. Quote, outside, they, the works, struck a chord. Peter Humer, a historian and radio talk show host, was one of a number of Austrian intellectuals who believed that Unterweger possessed a rare talent. Like many people on the left, Humer found the 1983 autobiography Purgatory, or The Trip to Jail, report of a guilty man, especially powerful. They said it was authentic, a real cry, he said. And like many, Humer signed petitions proclaiming Unterweger a perfect candidate for early release on parole.
Nope.
Quote, Unterweger represented the great hope of intellectuals that through the verbalization of poems, you can somehow get to grips with them, Humer recalled. We wanted to believe him very badly. He was so tender, Alfred Coleridge, a magazine editor, said later after visiting Unterweger in prison. We decided we had to get him pardoned.
Guess what? You can be a great writer and a murderer and not rehabilitated.
Just like a horrible person.
Fortunately, writing, poetry, or whatever is like the
Can be
one
done in
thing
prison.
you
Go
can
ahead.
still do in prison. So let him write in prison.
No.
And also,
How
all
about-
these people voting for his or like petitioning for his early release are men.
Yup.
Yikes.
So literally the next sentence I wrote, he just won over all of these literary elites, these like white male literary elites, and they went to bat for him hard.
Mm-hmm.
So a campaign was born, and it had major clout because, like I said, white male intellectuals were spearheading it.
Mm-hmm.
They got other bigwigs on board, members of government, church leaders. Even the governor at the time said in a statement, quote, "We will never find a prisoner so well prepared for freedom," end quote.
Oh.
It worked, and Jack went in front of the parole board in 1990 and was deemed eligible for release after having served 15 years. So he did serve the 15-year minimum, and he was released.
For murder, for brutal murder.
Clearly, the world learned nothing when 10 years prior, almost the exact same scenario played out in New York. In 1981, author Norman Mailer led a campaign for the release of Jack Henry Abbott, a man serving a life sentence in prison for murder, who also took a shine to the written word while behind bars. He was out for a few weeks before killing again, and Norman Mailer's response was, quote, "Culture is worth a little risk."
Oh,
end quote.
My God.
So fuck Norman Mailer and fuck Jack Henry Abbott.
Jesus.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. So, and obviously there are plenty of folks who serve time for violent crimes, actually seek healing, and are like released without further incident. Like, I'm not saying that we should never explore this, but I'm definitely saying that we can't fucking idolize and hero worship folks for like being a good writer.
Right.
And then overlook the deeply problematic shit that can lead to further violence. Like,
Like being a good writer or like finding religion in prison or having good behavior in prison, none of that is actually indicative of...
it's not proof that you're not going to reoffend a violent crime. Yeah.
Right. And I don't have the answers for what is, but that alone is not
that.
But also, like, we haven't even gotten to his writing, and we're about to.
Yes.
But, like, his shit was fucking creepy.
Mm-hmm.
So Jack is released and was almost immediately a celebrity. He was interviewed and featured on television, radio, in magazines. He did book tours, readings for live audiences. He put on his plays. He got into a fashionable uniform of white suits and silk ties.
Ew.
He got himself a Ford Mustang with the vanity plate W Jack 1.
Ew.
No.
I know.
Don't get a vanity plate with your own fucking name on it.
Certainly not if you're a murderer.
No.
God.
You should be barred from being able to have a vanity plate if you've committed a violent crime.
You should be
poor
barred from
family
having vanity.
I
of
know.
Margaret Schaefer. God.
I know. This guy is just out and now like famous and renowned for his literary prowess. I'd feel ill.
Ugh.
And like, just he's just out living his very profitable life that was
white
essentially
suits with silk ties.
Yeah, he's just out living this lavish shit on like a life he built on the back of a murdered woman. And like, okay, I haven't read a lot of his work because I wasn't able to find like easy English translations, and I don't care about this fucker enough to look hard. But from what I did read about his work and the couple little excerpts that I have here, it isn't like he approached his art from like a reformed restorative justice, giving back to the world to balance what he took kind of thing. It was like a dark,
Self-obsessed,
macabre, depraved shit that was like maybe healing for him to get on paper, which has its place, but in this context just really creeps me the fuck out.
It's almost like justifying what he did.
Yeah, kind of.
And he was getting attention for it.
Right. Yeah, it's definitely like a romanticizing. So like some excerpts of his writing include, quote, "No theme is more poetic than the death of a beautiful woman." End quote.
No.
And these are things he was writing in prison. It's not like we didn't know what he was writing about.
No.
Another of his odes went, quote, "You still seem strange and distant and lively, death, but one day you will be close and full of flames. Come, lover, I am there. Take me, I am yours."
No.
So he's like obsessed with death and dying and murder and harming women.
He is these rich literary fucks little cocktail story that makes
1,000%. Yeah.
feel interesting.
He's their Moleskin. Foreskin.
Yeah.
Foreskin.
Moleskin. No.
Moleskin. And then
Foreskin.
ish. Oh my God, no. And then bodies started showing up again in Europe. The first turned up in Prague in September of 1990, mere months after his release. A female sex worker named Blanka Bakova, who had been strangled by her own bra straps.
Oh, wouldn't you know?
Sounds familiar?
Weird.
Jack was in Prague at the time, quote, researching the city's red light district for an article he was writing because he'd become like a reporter.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can you be any more transparent, bruh? You fucking killed a sex worker and now you think you can go just for research, go to the red light district.
Yeah. Well,
research.
he did a lot more than that. So I have to assume a mixture of like, we just let this guy out and we can't admit that was a really bad call and we don't value the lives and personhood of sex workers enough to investigate this, meant that Jack was not apprehended or questioned for this.
Ooh, that's a solid combination though, I'm sure.
Yep.
It's also 1990, so like these different European countries might not have
be communicating with each other too much.
Right.
Yeah, for sure. Then another body turns up in October of the same year back in Austria in the town of Graz. A young woman named Brunhild Masser killed with the same MO.
He's consistent.
Yep. A couple months after that, in December of 1990, Heidi Hammerer was found near Bregenz, Austria. Same MO. By the spring of 1991, 5 more women were found, strangled, and discarded in the woods near Graz and Vienna.
Jesus Christ.
It's not that big of a country.
Nope.
No, it's really not. It's like the size of Minnesota.
Nope. And this motherfucker not only wasn't immediately questioned in relation to these crimes, but even established himself as a key journalist in these investigations.
Well,
He
because
literally-
those murderers always want to come back to the scene.
Oh, yeah. They want to be part of it.
Scope it out.
He literally interviewed Vienna's chief of police and wrote articles in the newspaper about the deaths. Jack was still a free man in mid to late 1991 and was able to travel to Los Angeles, California, overseas for additional, quote, research of their red light scene. And while he was there, 3 sex workers were killed.
Jesus.
That we know of. Yeah.
This fucker stayed at the Cecil Hotel.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Honey.
Okay, so I knew the name Unterweger was familiar, so I must have mentioned
You might have come
this
across
guy.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think there was a Netflix documentary about this motherfucker.
Yeah. There's all kinds of TV and stuff about this guy.
Okay.
There's a couple podcasts I found about it. We hadn't covered him before. I'd never really heard of him. And then when I dove into this, I was like, holy shit. Yeah.
Right.
And frankly, that's all the evidence I need to know that you're a murderer. That's it. Lock him up. I'm done. So finally, Jack is arrested and brought in for the murders that he could be connected to. And this is from my favorite source, allthat'sinteresting.com.
Howstuffworks.com.
How stuff works. Quote, by this point, enough bodies had piled up that Unterweger was beginning to attract the attention of authorities on both sides of the Atlantic Ocean. Police in Los Angeles matched the timeline of this is their words, not mine, prostitute murders with Unterweger's stay in the city. Then Unterweger fled from the U.S. to Switzerland, then Paris, then back to Miami, where his story would finally begin its bloody conclusion. It was in Miami where authorities finally caught up with Unterweger and arrested him in February of 1992. This is my favorite part. In the end, the FBI caught him by convincing him they were reporters from Success Magazine, ready to pay him $10,000 for the chance to hear his story.
Oh, your success story.
Yep. Unterweger took the bait, and instead of sitting down with a doting reporter, he walked into a room filled with U.S. Marshals, end quote.
Why not? They were like, oh, he's got a fucking vanity plate. He wears white suits. Yeah, this will work.
This is how we get him. 1,000%.
Yeah.
They
You do not need like a criminal profiler to figure out what that guy,
they knew
what makes him tick.
That would work for Trump.
It totally would. They knew exactly what bait to put in the trap.
Gold
and it fucking
toilets,
works like a charm.
Toupees, we got it.
Bunch of McDonald's. Let's go.
Putin has him in his hands, in the palm of his hand.
So he was extradited back to Austria to stand trial once again. And while much of the evidence was circumstantial and missing eyewitness testimony, there was compelling forensic evidence, including hairs, fibers from his own clothing, and fibers from the clothing of at least 3 of the murdered women in the UK that could be linked to Jack. So literally fibers from his fucking scarves that he loved.
Jesus.
On these bodies. It's fuck you.
Christ.
So this evidence coupled with the distinct MO was enough to bring him up on charges once again. This time, Jack maintained his innocence throughout the trial. The courtroom was full with supporters and detractors alike, and on June 29th, 1994, he was found guilty once again. He would never hear his sentence, however, as Jack Unterweger died by suicide in his cell 24 hours after his conviction.
What a fucking coward.
Couldn't handle it.
Nope. So one of his last confessions would state, quote, I wielded my steel rod among the prostitutes and pimps of Hamburg, Munich, and Marseille. I had enemies and conquered them through my inner hatred. End quote.
Dude, shut the fuck up.
I know.
Also, you were a pimp. You tried to profit off of sex work and then...
Yeah. And then killed sex workers.
Fuck off,
because of your hatred of your...
so
you're an
gross.
opportunist pig piece of shit. Depraved.
I understand that he had a very traumatic upbringing.
Listen, you can empathize with someone's trauma and hate that they're a fucking sleazebag murderer.
Yeah, serial killer.
Yeah. Anyway, poetry crime.
Poetry. So yeah, just because somebody can write poetry doesn't make them a good person.
Nope.
Yeah.
In fact, I'm going to be more suspicious of someone who touts themselves as a poet.
What if that person wrote poetry about pooping in a corporate office?
Well, it would go right over my head.
Clearly.
All right. Well, thank you for listening. We'll talk to you next week.
Oh, we'll see you next week.
We love you. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to Wine and Crime. Our cover art is by Kala Yip, music by Phil Young and Corey Wendell, editing by Jonathan Camp. Check out our website and blog at wineandcrimepodcast.com. You can also follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Wine and Crime Pod. If you have questions, answers, or recommendations to share, email us at wineandcrimepodcast@gmail.com. Episodes are available on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Google Play, basically wherever you get your favorite podcasts. And if you like the show, please rate, review, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts. It is the best way to spread the word. If you'd like to show your support, visit our Patreon page to keep this podcast and the wine flowing. Cheers.